All right, I believe we are live, Delaney. I'm seeing people come on into the room. I'll drop a quick note here to everyone. All right, and so people are going to continue to just come into the webinar. I'm going to get us started in just a second, but I'd like to give folks just a minute to get in here. Even though I can't see you, I know you all are there. You'll know who I am in just a minute. I promise I'll introduce myself and our awesome speaker as well. All right. For the sake of time and to make sure that we get through today's fantastic session, I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. As a note, welcome. That's the first thing I want to say. The kickoff of the Main Street America's 2025 Summer Learning Webinar Series. My name is Tasha Sams, and I'm the Director of Education here at Main Street America. We are so excited to have you all with us for this free webinar series featuring attendee favorite sessions from the 2025 Main Street Now Conference. Whether you missed them in Philly or you're ready for a deeper dive, these webinars offer fresh perspectives on the topics that matter most to Main Street leaders today. And I'm so excited to share that we have over 400 Main Streeters, plus anyone else, right, joining us today for such an awesome session. As a note, we are recording this webinar and it will be made available for free to Main Street members on the Main Street America Academy. I'll share more details about that at the end of today's webinar. So to kick off our series, today we're joined by the incredible Delaney Evers, Executive Director of PACT in Iowa, who is going to lead us through our webinar entitled Sowing the Seeds of Service, Creating Committed Volunteers for Life. And just so everyone knows, this was one of our highest rated sessions this last year at Main Street Now 2025 in Philly. So Delaney is bringing it back for us in this virtual format so that we can make sure even more people get to experience this session. And as we all know, volunteers are crucial to Main Street. So this topic feels both very timely and also timeless. So welcome, Delaney. Do you mind to tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yes, and thank you for saying I am incredible. That was a nice boost to my Thursday.
Woo!
Hi, everybody. I am Delaney Evers. I'm the executive director at PACT here in Centerville, in the great state of Iowa, about 20 minutes from the Missouri border. I was telling Tasha earlier, I call myself an Iowa boomerang. So I grew up right here in Centerville, uh, left. Went to Los Angeles for 6 years and then decided to work my way back home, and I've been with our organization, which has Main Street Centerville under its umbrella for right over 4 years. So I'm really excited to talk about a little bit about what we do and what I'm most passionate about, our volunteer incentive program. And hopefully I can give you some tips that will help you in your own communities.
Awesome. Well, with that, Delaney, I'm going to pass the imaginary baton to you to lead us through this webinar. I'm going to turn off my audio and my camera just so that all eyes can focus on you and the good information that you have to share with us today.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. Um, I am going to kind of info dump just how our volunteer incentive program works, um, cool ways we've improved it, and then ideally how you can implement it in your own community. I'm going to hopefully get through in about 45 minutes and then take any questions, but also I will include my contact information. Feel free to email me. I love talking about this, and you'll probably see that over the next hour. Um, so, Sowing seeds of service, creating committed volunteers for life. Like all of you, I'm sure you struggle to find volunteers, especially post COVID. And it's something that was a really big issue in our community and just with our organization as a whole. So it's something we put a lot of focus in about 2021, 2022. Um, so tackling your volunteer void, you might see these three photos and be like, yes, Delaney, those are amazing active volunteers. Like, why are you knocking on them? I'm not, but we have my childhood best friend, my poor fiance, who does a lot of volunteering, my dad and his best friend, and my mom and her best friend. So while they're all great volunteers, and I encourage you to pull from your own network and family, it's not sustainable for you long term. So my big goals today through this one-sided conversation right now is for you to understand how to build a volunteer pipeline from middle school to adulthood, how you can identify potential partnerships in your own community, exploring equity and inclusion in service programs, and then how you can customize a program that fits your community's needs. Um, so as I mentioned, we all are always looking for volunteers. And I would assume almost everyone on this call works beyond your 9 to 5, volunteering with your own organization or others in your community. And this isn't an uncommon thing. Volunteering post-COVID has been significantly down. 23.2% of Americans volunteered formally with an organization in 2021, 30% down from pre-pandemic. And then teen volunteerism dropped 11% over the past decade. And this isn't uncommon as much as it feels like it's our own personal struggle. But traditional recruitment just isn't working anymore. The same few people are doing everything. That's what I hear consistently. We have an aging volunteer base. I'm in an aging community. A lot of our core volunteers are just getting to the age that they can't do physically what they once did. And then also just putting out a sign up sheet isn't cutting it, be it physical or digital, just shouting out into the void, hey, I need these shifts filled, unfortunately, doesn't cut it. So these are all of the issues that we were struggling with, and we created our VIPs, the Volunteer Incentive Program. So a little bit about our community. So PACT is the umbrella organization that houses Main Street Centerville. So we serve all of Appanoose County. The county population is roughly 12,200 people. The average age is 45.5 years old. So it's an aging community. It's a small community. It's a rural community. We're about 90 minutes from Des Moines, and 3 hours from Kansas City. So we're really kind of in our own little bubble. Median household income is about $51,000. Lots of farmers, lots of people who've never left the county or maybe the state. But we also have a huge tourism economy because Rathbun Lake, which is one of the larger lakes in Iowa, is located in our county. So we have lots of events going on to try to draw in these visitors, keep them here longer, and a lot of those require volunteers, which is why the need was so high for us. So we created the volunteer incentive program that starts in middle school. That's the ripple effect. They are 6 to 8th graders. What are they motivated by? Prizes, money, things. They don't care about scholarships yet. They really have to put in the work to volunteer. They don't have autonomy over themselves when you think about it. Like they're asking someone to probably drive them somewhere to volunteer. So we try to make that the entry point into volunteering that makes them so excited to volunteer when they get older. Um, Silver Cords was a program we already had, and that's a nationwide program. It's for 9th to 12th graders, where they can do volunteer hours and compete for scholarships. They also get to wear silver cords at graduation. Uh, their motivation, typically scholarships. And then filtering that, we're aiming to have a funnel that creates these awesome volunteers, be it that they end up here in Appanoose County or they move somewhere else, and ideally volunteering is part of their being at that point. That's our Appanoose activists. They're 18+ year olds and they don't really care about things or shout outs. They want connections. They want to meet new people. They want to kind of like form those bonds. So we really looked at the 3 age groups that can assist us and how we can make the program beneficial to them. So a little bit more about each age group. So ripple effect, that 6th to 8th graders are middle schoolers. They earn prizes for hitting hours each school year. And then cumulatively, the 8th grader at the end of the school year with the most hours gets a large prize, about a $250 value. So the first 8 hours of volunteer work earned each school year, they get $25. And then when they hit 20 hours, they receive $50. This is not something we pay out of pocket. We partnered with a local bank, Community First Credit Union, and they were one of the banks that they were members of our organization, but they're outside of the district. They're more of a regional bank, so they weren't super engaged with us, but we knew that they had youth engagement as one of their big focuses. So we pitched this idea to them and they loved it, and they cover all of the cost of paying out the kids. For silver cords, ninth to 12th graders, they must complete 80 hours of volunteer work throughout high school. Some of them do it all their freshman year. Some of them do it all their senior year, but ideally we're trying to get them to do 20 hours of volunteer work each year. 6 hours each year can also be earned through job shadowing. And this is job shadowing that we help set up. So we can take them to manufacturing plants nearby. They can go work with a hairstylist for a day. But we'll even work if there's something a kid is really passionate about that maybe isn't offered in Appanoose County. We try to make the connections with them to send them somewhere else within the state or nearby that they can learn. So we had a sophomore, Jameson, who is really interested in doing art full time. We sent him up to an art studio in Des Moines for a day. And he was able to learn from them, see like a real artist at work, and then earn hours at the same time. If they complete their 80 hours in their 4 years of high school, they get to automatically wear their silver cords at graduation. And then we provide an optional essay, and they basically just write about the importance of volunteering, and that gives them the chance to earn a scholarship. We say chance, but everyone who submits their hours and submits an essay gets a $750 scholarship. Um, but we want to make them think they have to work for it a little bit. Appanoose activists, we have 3 levels of annual incentives, so bronze, silver, and gold. Um, those incentives range from Appanoose bucks, so this is like our chamber bucks or local cash. I'm sure all of you have something similar, to discounts on their membership to our organization. It's geared towards taking the already engaged volunteers and better tracking their hours, but also getting new residents or folks who are new to volunteering proud of what they're doing. As I said, that older age range or age group is where we have the same 30 people that love to volunteer, but we don't want to burn them out and we want to get more folks involved. So this has really been helpful in that. Um, so what we were going back and forth on when creating this program was, do we create something for the middle schoolers? Because when you think about it, I mean, some of them are 11, 12. It takes a lot of work on our end to train them to do something. So that's when it gets into that, well, I could just do it quicker myself mentality. So you really have to break that down if you want to have a program like this. But the more we thought about it, the more we really wanted to get the middle schoolers involved. Um, Specifically because volunteering builds identity early. Civic habits formed before the age of 18 are amongst the strongest predictors of lifelong engagement in community and leadership roles. I'm guessing most of you who are Main Street directors or community leaders, you've been volunteering from a young age. I saw my grandma started Appanoose County Girls Softball. My mom has been involved in Rotary, the Chamber, United Way. So it was just a part of who I was, but that's not the case for everybody. So the earlier we can get folks volunteering, the better. Adolescents' brains are also wired for empathy. They're very open to everything. They want to help. They have really big hearts. So it's a prime time to introduce service. And then young volunteers typically stay engaged for life. Teens who volunteer are 3 times more likely to continue volunteering as adults, especially when they feel like their work matters. And with that point is something that seems a little backwards when you think about our program, and I'll talk about it a little more later, but want to introduce it here. So as part of this program, they don't have to just volunteer with our organization. They can volunteer with any approved organization in Appanoose County. And the whole point of that is some kids like dogs. Our animal shelter is always desperate for volunteers. Some people are really interested in the history of our community. We have 7 different historical sites that always have like work days. But most likely, if they do sign up for our program and work with another organization, they'll volunteer with us at least once. So again, it's helping our organization, but it's helping the community as a whole and instilling that volunteer mindset. Um, some volunteers in action. I wanted to give some specific kind of examples of how this program looks in real life. So our top left photo, that is Miss Sophia. Sophia is awesome. She is a junior, and she has already submitted over 100 hours to our organization. But she is holding up our Ask Me About Shop Second Saturday little photo prop we take around to retailers. That's a promotion we do in our downtown district every second Saturday where we just push local shopping. And I was asking Sophia and some of her classmates about like what do they want beyond scholarships? What would incentivize them? What do they like to have? They're obsessed with stickers apparently. So we create one-off little stickers that we offer like seasonally when they volunteer at specific events, and they get these and they all plop them on their water bottle. And then what's really cool to see is they'll have that out and about, and another classmate will ask them about that sticker, and they'll kind of start to explain like the importance of shopping local and why we need to support our local businesses. So it's creating that support local, shop local mentality early on. The second photo on the top, those five awesome girls are part of the Centerville Redette basketball team. And what I want to highlight with this photo is we're all volunteering or working with our own organizations so often, but it is so important when we're in these community leader roles that we volunteer with other organizations. So I, for the first time last year, coached high school girls basketball and the JV team. We went 13-4. So they're awesome girls, but all of them are now enrolled in the volunteer incentive program. So they helped with Breakfast with Santa. They promoted the basketball program. It was great for little kids to see the big kids being in the community. And I now know I have about 20 really responsible volunteers. That third photo is Miss Erin. Erin had an awesome idea for our silver cord keychains. So the kids will always tell us the funniest things, and they have to submit their hours through a Google form. And they would all batch their hours basically in a notes app and then enter them all at once. And I was saying like, well, I really don't want you to do that because part of it is time management. And also I need to be able to raise enough money for your scholarships. I need to know where you're at. So Erin came up with this silver cord keychain that has a QR code on the back that goes directly to the Google form. And so they are all submitting their hours as soon as they do them now. It's a great thing that they can carry around and then advocate for the program on our behalf. And it's great to see like a kid just came up with that. So we really appreciate that from her. The three gentlemen by the big Christmas tree. Centerville is home to Indian Hills Community College that has an amazing baseball program and then also a women's and men's wrestling program. The women's program is actually, I believe it's 5-time national reigning champs. But these are young student athletes, 18, 19 years old from all over the world. The baseball team had, I think, 7 countries represented last year, and they're dumped in a very small community in Iowa, and most of them don't have a driver's license. Most of them have, half of them haven't seen snow before, and it can be really isolating. So this program has allowed us to engage with them for some volunteer opportunities that we really need some able-bodied uh, folks that are not scared to climb a ladder. So our baseball team and wrestling team helps us hang live garland around our entire downtown every year. They also help put up our 32-foot Christmas tree. And it's been a great way to like engage with them and hear more about their experience at the college and how we can make their time here more enjoyable. So we've been able to realize that a lot of them don't have cars. Biking downtown isn't always feasible. And so we can go like pick up all of the kids and then bring them downtown for volunteer activities or have our trolley go get them. So it's been a great way to engage them. Moving to the bottom row, Those three guys there, Justin, Larry, and Matt specifically, or Tyler, they are gentlemen that I wouldn't think would volunteer. And so, what I've also learned through this program is me just going up and asking someone to do something rather than shooting out an email into the void will get them really involved. I basically just asked these guys to help out with our barbecue contest one year. Begged would probably be more of an accurate description. And now they are the committee. I know that I can really do the oversight on the event, and they have that barbecue contest down pat. On top of that, they've started volunteering with other organizations, and basically, in talking to them, they were like, "Well, no one ever asked us." So asking is really a big piece of it. That next photo at the boardroom table, something that I'm really excited that we started offering in the past school year is student committee seats. So our 4 points all have 3 seats for students that they get to leave school, which they love, for an hour once a month and come to a committee meeting and contribute to the conversation. And they say really profound things. And I think as adults, sometimes we can get our blinders on. And they really open things up, and hearing the perspective of a 16-year-old is really helpful to have at the table. And then on top of the student committee members, we do now have a non-voting board seat too that kids can apply for. There's only one. We select one each school year, and it's been really great having them at the table too. Um, the next photo is myself and a good chunk of our student committee members. What's really cool is on top of them getting out of school for their committee meetings, we also give them like one-off experiences. So you can't really tell in that photo, but we are in an upper story that had been unoccupied for, I would say, close to 50 years, that had been completely redone into a beautiful, beautiful upper story unit. And they got to tour that property, learn about the challenge grant from Main Street, Iowa that made it happen, heard from local contractors. And it's like such a great learning experience for them, but it's not in a classroom setting. They actually get to like go out and experience things. Um, and then that final photo, something that we have locally, we have a Guinness World Record for it, is Pancake Day. It's always the last Saturday in September. We serve thousands and thousands of free pancakes, have parades, basically like any community festival I'm sure each of you have, but ours is just themed around pancakes. But we've always had a Miss Pancake Day pageant. And the idea of a pageant is pretty antiquated at this point. So we've really shifted it into being about public speaking, civic pride, volunteering, and pre-COVID, we were down to about 5 to 6 contestants each year. I'm so happy to say we have 15 this year, to the point that we might need extensions for our stage. And they've all basically said that it's the shift in the pageant has really made them want to be involved again. They all have a great experience. And the good thing is, we provide a lot of volunteer opportunities to them throughout their application process and leading up to Pancake Day. If they participate in every single opportunity, there's almost a guarantee that they'll graduate with silver cords. So it's really helpful to us in the summer to have all of those youth volunteers. Um, As I mentioned, business and community partnerships are really important to something like this. We could not sustain financially this program without outside support. So looking at shared values, as I mentioned, Community First Credit Union, they were outside of our district. They were members of our organization at like the entry level, but we knew they had a really strong focus on youth engagement. And so we pitched this idea to them. They loved it. And I'm sure they also love all of the organic shout outs they get, because every time a kid hits a milestone for Ripple Effect, we post a photo at the bank with the big check. The kids love it. And then give them the real check, say thank you, and kind of move on from there. And then we also really put an emphasis on engaging with large employers, even if they're not downtown. A lot of our volunteer opportunities are downtown. But a lot of our volunteers aren't from businesses downtown. So we have a local hospital, the community college, some large manufacturers that we have given presentations to, and then they also promote internally and coordinate group volunteer days. A lot of our younger workforce in Appanoose County are actually remote workers. We have a gentleman comes to mind that works for Wells Fargo, but works remotely. They get 16 hours of paid volunteer time each year. He spends that with us. And it's been a great example to show other businesses locally that maybe don't offer a volunteer day, that, hey, why don't you do this? And it can be a team building activity. And like that photo on the bottom, that's the entire Go Pitch TV, which is a local media company team volunteering in our beverage garden for a bike night event, and they did it like as a collective group, and it was easier than us trying to fill individual slots, and they really enjoyed it too. um, this is kind of what I touched on earlier. Flexible participation grows buy-in. Volunteers can earn hours with any organization in Appanoose County, not just ours. And I know it sounds counterintuitive when we're all desperate for volunteers a lot of the time. But it does help break down silos between the organizations. The whole like, no one knows what's going on, everyone's duplicating efforts. It's just through the volunteer program has helped us get away from that. Um, it also gets more people in the habit of helping. And when they see people they know helping with other organizations, they typically find their way to us and they ask about how they can get involved. And it lets people serve causes they truly care about. So Jameson, who I mentioned earlier, loves dogs. There's Jameson with a puppy at Forever Friends Animal Shelter. He definitely started out by just volunteering with them, but now he's usually here once a week, um, and volunteers with us doing like data entry, organizing boxes for events, that sort of thing. And then that photo below, Tammy and Jolyn, they help out. We did a mimosa bar to raise funds for the Silver Cords scholarship. And Jolyn's a former educator. Tammy is the CEO of Farmers Mutual Communications. So again, it's those large employers, larger businesses in Appanoose County. And then who better can advocate for the importance of scholarships than a teacher? So getting those folks involved in organizations and causes they care about. Um, I think beyond just the structure of creating a volunteer incentive program, keeping in mind equity and access to volunteerism as a whole is really important. So we regularly visit all three schools in the county. So we have Centerville Community Schools, which is where we are, but Moravia and Moulton are both smaller, very rural schools. This program is open to all three schools in the county. We visit our major employers and partner organizations, and we ensure that everyone hears about volunteer opportunities firsthand. I also am not shy about filming a video like this and basically rattling off volunteer opportunities that are coming up in the future and who we already have on board, giving them shout outs, that sort of thing. So being creative in the way you're asking for volunteers. We also have flexible and accessible sign up options. Anyone can join the program from middle school up, and they can sign up for shifts anytime via the website. They can stop by the office. Some of our older volunteers really like stopping by and seeing us in person. But the kids, they don't want to talk to us. They don't want to get on the phone. But we're not going to be texting kids. So we basically offer in person, online, however you want to volunteer with us. Multiple channels equals more access. We meet people where they are, with outreach ranging from our free volunteer text alert list. So this is just AMP close by social, like text marketing. We have a specific group in that text that is just for volunteers, and that it meets the kids where they are because they want to text, but we don't want adult volunteers texting a child or giving out their phone number. So this is basically a one-way text that goes to everybody of, hey, here's a volunteer opportunity, here's a link to sign up. And that's been really helpful. We have a dedicated Facebook group, weekly email newsletter. We're really focusing on the things that we own, being the text list and the email newsletter, rather than just social media, because it's all so saturated at this point. And then we have QR codes posted around the county for quick info and sign up on how to get involved with the program. Um, we want this program to be inclusive by design. Uh, there are people from the middle schoolers to the high schoolers, but also adults who don't have cars, don't have a driver's license. That's not an issue. We have found at least one organization in each township within Appanoose County that someone can go volunteer with. So we have a very active middle school volunteer that lives in Mystic, Iowa. The population of Mystic is about 200 people. He does not have a way to get into Centerville if it's not for school via the bus. But they have a really active cemetery beautification committee. He volunteers with them in the summer 3 to 4 days a week. So it's really creating those partnerships, because then we know by the time that he's probably in high school in Centerville, we'll have him volunteering with our events. No resume, no problem. We actually do like resume work sessions, because a lot of the kids, as soon as they turn 14, they want a job. Um, be it bussing tables at a local restaurant or maybe at the movie theater, but they don't have any job experience to put down. A lot of the work they're doing as volunteers is similar to what they'd be doing in the workforce. So we will write letters of recommendation for them. We'll help them create their own resume, and really make them feel good about what they're doing. But the big thing is our program is open to all ages, backgrounds, and abilities, with opportunities across the entire county. And we make sure that that's a big focus, because while 8 and 20 hours of volunteer work for a school year for a middle schooler doesn't seem like a lot, they have no autonomy really over where they're going. They have to be asking someone to give them a ride most of the time. They have to want to volunteer. So we want to make it as easy for them as possible and make them feel so good about it. I make sure I check in on our like spreadsheet of who submitted hours recently. And I try to have that in my head, that if I see one of those kids out in public, the grocery store, Chloe, oh my gosh, you've been volunteering so much. Thank you for doing that. And it just makes them feel good, and it kind of reinforces that behavior. Our seeds for success, the 5 core strategies: start early and make it fun, tie service to social experience and school pride. I was telling Tasha before we opened up this call to everybody, I am very cheesy. I go give shout outs like at the school. I make sure I'm there to watch them at their sporting events after they volunteered for us. So I make it this like reciprocated effort. Um, Offer incentives that matter: community swag, gift cards, scholarships, prizes. One of the funniest incentives that I want to point out, that top photo is a digital billboard. Um, I'm sure most of you have them in your community or they're popping up. So at our major intersection of Highway 2 and 5, there's one. And they don't want to be a member of our organization. They're in hundreds of communities, but we did talk them into donating the space, that we put up a different volunteer each week and give them a shout out. The kids especially feel famous. They love it. We'll see photos of them like pointing at their own photo, and that's something that doesn't cost us anything. We have the graphic made up really quick that we can just switch it out weekly or bi-weekly, and it really has made an impact. But then there's adults like Dane who this is not ever going to be published. He does not want his there. So talking to people before they put it up is important, but I did want to include him in this presentation. Um, Partner with employers and banks, leverage those corporate social responsibility programs and team building interest. and be the midpoint that maybe if there's a company that can't uh, partner with your organization, it's not what their goal is for the day, or maybe it's too many people or too few, you can at least be the midpoint. We have another local bank that volunteers a couple times a year, and we connected them with the building trades program through our community college. And that program basically builds a house on a vacant lot in the community. It's amazing. But there is work that they don't want the students to do because it's not teaching them the skills they want, like painting. So the bank went in and painted a whole house, and they loved it. They wore their shirts and got the promo, and we were able to make that connection. Um, be inclusive and accessible, build pathways that work for kids of all backgrounds. I make sure, as much as I think everyone knows about this program, I go speak at the school to every single kid every year. Um, and I have really made that an emphasis. Um, and then track growth over time. We create those mini service resumes, milestone markers. We shout it out. The kids love it. And just the photos we have here, beyond that, we had 5 silver cords from Centerville this year, but we had 8 total. That's the largest group we've had. But we're on track to have 17 next year. So it's clearly resonating with them. And they have become our most active volunteers in the organization by far. And then in terms of offering incentives that matter, kids love pizza. So just giving them, when we do a group volunteer day, letting them know we appreciate them. Oftentimes, if you reach out to your local restaurants too and say, hey, we're having a volunteer day with these 12 high schoolers, will you give us a discount on pizza? They donate the pizza. So you can kind of leverage it that way. Um, so building your pipeline, um, obviously what is working in our community may not work in yours. If you have a smaller size, larger size, it really needs to be created to serve your needs. So assess your current volunteer engagement and demographics, design your program, stakeholder engagement, who can you get involved that's not typically involved, identify what resources you have. Again, if we had to fund this entirely by ourselves, it would not be feasible. And then develop a timeline, because what I really want to hammer home, while this is amazing and we have all these great volunteers now, it probably took 3 years to really get it where we wanted it. And then it's like consistently tweaking it, because now we're at the point where the kids are so involved and the adults are so reliant on them that as soon as we have an event that we serve alcohol and the kids can no longer help, we're having to put in a little more effort to get the adults involved. So it's having those conversations of, okay, you haven't volunteered much recently. Are the incentives not engaging with you? Is it the type of volunteer work? Like, we're consistently changing things. So just know that it will take you a while to set it up, but also you just need to like consistently change it to make it relevant. I do have a worksheet that's basically a step-by-step of how to do that. Um, and then some final takeaways. It takes time, as I said. It didn't really take off until the 3rd year. We're not rigid. This program is ever changing. We see what works. There have been things that haven't worked. And then what resonates with different age groups. I can say what really made things click for the middle schoolers is we now have a downtown day with the 6th grade class, where every student in the 6th grade comes down to our Main Street district, and we line up like 10 to 12 different businesses that they rotate in groups to learn about different jobs in our downtown district. But one of those stops is to see me and hear about our volunteer incentive program. And usually we walk out with at least 50% of the class signed up. Or if they're not signing up in the moment, their parents are reaching out saying, so and so heard about this and what I wanted to learn more. So that's been a great way to get them involved. Um, and then if nothing else, remember, volunteerism is a habit. Plant the seed early. It's kind of like that muscle memory. If you volunteer a lot as you're younger, as you get into volunteering, it just becomes a part of who you are. So we are here to help make that happen for more people. Equity matters, make it accessible to everyone, and you don't need a huge budget, just enthusiasm and structure. Uh, as much as we're not rigid, there is a way we do things. So like organizations that we connect, especially kids with, like we do background checks. We make sure that we are creating a safe environment for everyone involved, a fun environment. So yeah, just being excited about it and kind of building the framework for them. I promise you we'll get more volunteers involved. Um, and that's the quickest I've ever finished that. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. But there's my contact information. Please, please, please email me. I told Tasha I would also take questions now, but I love talking about this. So feel free to reach out. If I do not respond to you, you may have shown up in my spam, but I will make sure to keep an eye out on that. But I think I have my LinkedIn profile there too. So happy to connect with anyone that has questions.
Delaney, thank you so much. That was incredible. I learned a lot and I am both like in awe and so excited for this program for your community. I think it's critical to invest in our youth and find ways to bring them in. I use a really nerdy term called creating a cultivation network, which is, probably a little too academic and maybe kind of scientific sounding, but this is exemplifying just that. So kudos to you. We do have some incredible questions that have come through. And so if you don't mind answering those live, that would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
There's a couple that are coming up in a couple different ways. And so I'll just ask the most recent that came through. Kelly shares, this seems like a volunteer program manager role. And how does Delaney, as a director, manage all of the other elements of Main Street projects and work? Does she have any staff? So, but
Yes.
Delaney, like, how
Yes.
is all this functioning? What does it look like in your organization?
Yes, and as much as I love this and I take a lot of ownership over this, we do have the volunteers operating a lot of this. So a little bit about our organization, we're merged Chamber Economic Development, Main Street and Tourism. I was hired as tourism director. I was in the Main Street role for 2 years and then I was promoted to executive director. So I'm not directly over our Main Street program. We have an awesome Main Street director, Chandler, plus a part-time Main Street events and promotions specialist. And the really funny thing about her, Miss Veronica, she's amazing. She's, I don't even think 18 yet. She was a recipient of a Silver Cord Scholarship this year and an amazing volunteer with us. And when we had this part-time role pop up and we knew she was going to college locally, I just ran it by her and she responded within about 90 seconds and was like, yes, I want to do it. So it's cool how it can feed into that even. So as a staff of one, you would not be able to do this without some help. What we do is we establish and identify some of the older silver cord kids or younger adults, volunteers, and they spend time. We have an office in our building set up exclusively for the volunteers to come in and help and work. So they come in and assist with like sending out information, maybe being at a back to school night for the organization. I try to be there as much as I can, but I'm one person. Our staff is only 4 people. So it's relying on the volunteers once they get it to also spread the message and assist.
Awesome, thank you. And this question, there's kind of multiple of this one too. But I'll start with Jennifer. It came in first. So Jennifer says, how do you deal with working with minors and volunteer situations as far as liability and having adults working with youth? I know you touched on that a little bit, but is there anything else that you want to add just to, safety precautions that you're taking or just systems that you've created, those sorts of things?
Yeah. That's something that like sadly we do have to worry about and be cognizant of. So when a student volunteer is signing up, they sign a waiver that their parents also sign. Um, but we also take a lot of care. People will reach out and be like, "Hey, I'd like to volunteer with this organization." If it's an organization that we have no background with, we're not going to send a kid there alone. We also typically have an adult volunteer go to any offsite volunteering with them. But I also, as soon as we have a group of kids arrive, I give them the pep talk of like, you're awesome. But also, if anyone does or says anything that makes you uncomfortable, you need to call me right away. So it's like empowering them that way. But we don't send individual kids off to volunteer opportunities on their own unless a parent is going with them, just to avoid anything like that.
Awesome. Thank you for digging into that a little more. This one came through as well. It says you stated your Appanoose activists get either local bucks or membership discount. Is the amount based on the hours they have volunteered, or is it the same no matter what they are able to do to help with?
Um, So we have on our website, like once you hit that bronze, silver, and gold, like the incentives you get. So I think for the bronze, once you hit 35 hours, you get like 25 or $50 in our Appanews bucks. And we see that as a totally valid investment from our end that we do pay for, just because the value of a volunteer hour right now is somewhere around like 25, $26. So they're putting
Mhm.
in 35 hours to even get that $50. And then these are staying in our community. So it's money that's just being reinvested back. So they're the ones that we're still really figuring out what incentivizes them because they don't love the social media shout outs. A lot of our adult volunteers, the way the kids are like, yeah, I want to be my name in lights. So like we're consistently evolving that, but what we've noticed the most is these are the best incentive and it still supports local shopping. And then we give out free tickets to our annual banquet, and they tend to like that the most.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, this is a good one. So, how regularly are you doing those visits to the schools and connecting with the school districts, employers? What does that look for you in terms of like a cycle or number of times you go per year, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I really try to batch my time. So it's usually an entire week or 3 days out of a week that I'm hitting everyone. Typically, the first week of school is when I like to go see the students. And then I just do the employers at the same time. But we have pre-recorded videos that I'm also like consistently in our weekly email newsletter. We'll drop it in there of like, do you have questions about our volunteer incentive program? Do you want us to come speak? Or do you just want to forward this along to your employees and have them watch it? So that's helped a little bit. And people are really finally starting to get that the program is not just kids and it's not just Centerville, it is Appanese County. So we're not having to do as much outreach, but we're still wanting to make sure it's a priority because that could all change one day.
Absolutely. And I love that idea of creating pre-recorded videos because it's like you're there, but you're not there. And that frees up more time for you, obviously, and just create sort of a cache of resources that you have ready, ready to go to share and get in front of people, even when you're not there in person.
Yeah, and the videos
Yeah.
especially, like I love a doc. I love a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But that's not engaging to people.
Mhm.
Um, so like I look silly. I do videos like running out on the lawn. Like you have to let your guard down a little bit on this, but it is the most engaging way to get people to kind of see what you're doing. So we post
Yeah.
on socials, we send them out. And it's yeah, that kind of evergreen because like I love going to Main Street now, but I know there's probably other people that
Mhm.
hate the idea of being out of their office for a week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so having those things that can kind of be watched in an evergreen way makes me feel a little bit better of I know it's going to be okay with me being gone.
Yeah, that's this right now, right? That's what we're doing right here. Some other great questions. We still have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to do my best to get through as many of these as I can. They keep coming in, Delaney, just so you know. So you're probably going to get some emails, which is great. We love
Love
that.
that.
Love Main Street Connection across the country.
Yes.
So this question is pretty straightforward. How many volunteers does PACT manage?
Right now, there are about 400 volunteers in our volunteer incentive program from the 6th grade on.
Hmm.
I would say of that, there's 150 that are very active
Yeah,
volunteers. But we have noticed it's a really good way to meet new residents that move here for a job and have absolutely no connection. Typically, their employer asks them to enroll in that, and we can kind of make those connections, introduce them to new people. So that number is consistently growing, but I'd say 150 of them are really putting in the time.
that's still incredible, right? Because Centerville is not like a huge town, right? What did you say the population was earlier?
So our town is about 5,200. The county is about 12,000.
Wow. See,
So yeah,
that's like
it's
incredible.
very
Yeah.
rural,
Yeah.
very aging. So
Yeah.
it's good to see the kids out and about.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, let's see here. Where else we go? Oh, this is a good one and kind of just correlates with or ties right in rather. How do you get your foot in the door of the school system?
That is like the first kind of hard step.
Yeah.
What is like helpful and what I will not forget is I am from here. So
Mm,
those built-in connections that I already have, a lot of my teachers are still teachers.
yeah.
Um, as much as I know some of them are looking forward to retirement, I know they're there. Me coaching basketball has helped me getting in the door. But also the way our board is formatted is we have a education seat, um,
Mm,
and the superintendent of Centerville Schools is on our board currently. So he is able to, yes, we love Mark. Shout out
yes, yay, Mark.
Mark. So um, it's great because he sees, I mean, he sees literally the kids walking in and out during board meetings, or they see people coming to pick up their volunteer packet. But he's been really instrumental in making sure the kids are involved. And all three schools are really open to it. I think there's been such a shift to work-based learning. And
Mhm.
I think this is kind of an extension of that for them. So they've been really responsive to like letting the kids come in an hour late if they're in their one committee meeting. But we do make sure, and if you have kids come to the office during school hours, I send, or our office manager rather, uh, sends a, okay, Brenly, Cadence, and Reese have arrived. And then as soon as they walk out the door, they should be back within 5 minutes because it's
Yeah.
about 3 blocks that way. So we make sure that they're not acting ornery or
Yeah.
doing anything that we don't want them to be doing. So we do have oversight that way. And I would say 3 kids per committee is probably the most I would ever want to do because
Yeah.
they can get like overwhelmed with it. But also we want to make sure that like the adults don't think that the kids are going to run everything for them.
Yeah, totally. That makes really good sense. All right, the next question. Oh, this is a good one. Trisha asks, oh, hello, Trisha. Asks, do you host an involvement fair in collaboration with the other organizations in your county? I love the idea of collectively working together and building homegrown leaders. Great job with two exclamation points.
Thanks. So I would say we don't do an actual fair because we've noticed even like working with Job Corps, like the traditional job fair, volunteer fair isn't engaging with people how we want. We just really make a focus. We have a monthly coffee clutch meeting. And it's basically where community organizations all get together. We kind of talk about what's going on. And so it's a great way for me to meet people in those organizations. And then also just doing outreach myself of hey, I've seen on Facebook that you're really struggling to get people. Like, do you want to get together and talk about like what your volunteer needs are? Because middle schoolers can't do everything. So we don't ever want to send them the wrong type of volunteer. So just having those conversations.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we touched on waivers and liability and go down. Oh, someone asked for the QR code again for the worksheet.
Oh
We're
yeah.
going to share these slides, but yeah, Delaney, if you want to backtrack just a couple slides, there it is. For the anonymous attendee, I'm going to say we answered that one. All right, let's see here. You're getting a lot of love. All right.
The
A lot of,
Enneagram 3 in me loves that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Stephanie does have a good question. Not sure if I missed it, but what program is used to manage the volunteers? She says that she's Main Street of Casa Grande, Arizona, 2 employees pushing through our aging volunteers and working on engaging the youth. Youth, thank you so much for all the info. This was super helpful. So her question, I wanted to make sure to read that last part because it's kudos and hopefully like validation to you. But she's interested in what program you use, if you use a program to manage the volunteers.
So we're ballers on a budget. This is a
Okay.
Google form, Google
Yeah.
Sheets type of deal, and I'm happy to Tasha, I can send you the link to our Google folder that has everything
Yeah.
in there. And it's basically like, especially with the kids, on top of teaching volunteering, we're also teaching them like responsibility. We do not submit their hours for them. Um, Also, if they volunteer with another organization, we do not ask that an adult like signs off on their volunteer hours. It's total honor system. So if they're lying to us, that's on them. It's also pretty easy to tell if they're lying, but
Yeah.
we are treating them like little adults because that's what they are. And so we do just, yeah, a Google form for submitting hours. We do have printed versions of everything here and then like at the schools. But I know there are actual tracking programs. We haven't gotten to the point that we'll ever need to do that, I don't think, but who knows?
Who knows? Who knows what tomorrow holds? You might be up to 1,000, after this presentation. No, I'm joking.
Love that.
And then Emily, yes. And so, Lenny, that'd be awesome. I'm so happy to also, in addition to the webinar recording and this presentation, to share the Google folder that you just referenced with attendees as well with those additional resources.
Mhm.
All right, you all, this is difficult because there are so many good questions here, and I'm doing my best, but we only have time for one more. Um, let me see here. Where are we at? I do want to share you're getting more love. You're getting love from Julie Wright in Clear Lake, Iowa. You're getting love from Aaron Yeager, saying that you're rocking Southern Iowa. I just want to make sure to uplift our speakers. People are loving that you're engaging the middle school students, and that age group is spot on. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question. It's a good one to end on. How do you feel about offering incentives for volunteering? We haven't offered any because we've been careful about not offering payment for volunteering. So I understand that. Yeah. Can you share some of your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope because you want them to want to do it. And ideally, they would still be volunteering without those incentives. I think our way of like justifying it in our head is for the middle schoolers, like it's truly we're building a mindset and like $25 to a middle schooler locally that gets them into the pool for like 2 weeks.
Um,
So they get that check with their name on it. Um, the high schoolers, with it being a scholarship program, that is like pretty normal. And then the adults, because we're giving them like snacks, the Appanoose bucks that stay local, like we still feel like it's serving our mission. So it's not, it hasn't felt like it's an issue yet, but I think that's one of those things that we're constantly looking at and evolving because we used to have a much broader incentive list and like you can get your name in one of the brick pavers on the square and like that's really hard for us to manage. So we've pared it down and just being like clear in that messaging of this is ever changing and not them never having an expectation that they get anything um, just guaranteed has been helpful.
That's awesome. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a good model, like it's important to reward them, but it is a slippery slope and you don't want to like go down the other side of it. So I
Mhm.
think with all things, it's just a balance. I'll end with this and then I'll give you a little bit more information on what's going to happen next and how you all can access this recording and all of the great resources that Delaney has shared with us. Carol Lilly says, great job, Delaney. Just wanted to throw that last one out there. All right, you all. So this has been such a wonderful hour. Thanks again for joining us today. And so, following up on what I just mentioned, this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available for free to Main Street members. You can learn more about all of our educational offerings and our learning experiences on the very newly launched Main Street America Academy. I'm going to go ahead and drop that web address into the chat for you. I encourage all of you to go ahead and explore the Academy. You can get your account set up. If you already have a membership and an account on mainstreet.org, you're just going to need to click join once you go to this site. You'll create a user profile and you'll be good to go, and you'll be able to access not just this webinar recording, but some of the other fantastic webinars and learning experiences, educational offerings, and resources that we've pulled together at the national level. So for those of you that have registered for our next free webinar as part of this series on Thursday, July 24th, entitled Bridging Humanities and Preservation Through Community Storytelling, I'll see you next week. And for those of you that haven't registered, I strongly encourage you to do so, because it will be another awesome learning experience from a Main Streeter. And Delaney, I just want to close again in gratitude to you. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and experience with us. It has been wonderful. And with that, I think we're good to go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And go to Main Street now. It's the best experience.
It is. It's a fantastic conference. I'll stand by that. We can talk
Yes.
about that a lot more. All right, you all. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar, and then I think everything's going to close out. But take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye, Delaney.
Bye.